But yeah, man. So for today's call, I just wanted to dive a bit deeper and like educate you guys on like how like the fat burning process actually works, and like how like shifting from, I know like we've been like really counting like, you know, our calories and our macros, which is important, but there's like another level to it that will actually help you accelerate your fat loss beyond that, right? And I'm trying to shift from this like this calorie counting paradigm that we have to more of like a hormone and like metabolic paradigm, right? Because it's like really like, what is like the fat burning process? Like, is it just like magic? Like what really happens, you know? Um, so I'm gonna share my screen real quick. And this will also be helpful for when I tell you guys on certain things to do, because you won't really like internalize it unless like you really understand like what's really going on here. But just as like a basic overview, so like how do we really burn fat, and exactly like what facilitates that process, right? So what fat is, like you have fat cells within your body, and it actually almost acts like an organ, all right? And these fat cells, they basically work with your endocrine system, and it also releases and regulates other hormones and substances that works with your metabolism, coordinates with other organs as well, right? So it's a very complex part of your body, right? And so your body fat is basically essentially like responsible for regulating your overall metabolism, and fat really is energy. It can essentially use itself for energy, right? And so you pretty much have a certain amount of fat cells that stay fixed throughout your lifetime. And really what happens, like your fat cells really expand or not. So let's say you start gaining weight, generally that's your fat cells expanding, right? So really matters is like your fat cells really shrinking or expanding, okay? And when this fat is stored in your fat cells, it's really meant for energy storage, right? And it's really storage meant to like tap into later for times when like there's famine, you know, when there's not, you know, food available, right? And this was actually good back in the day when like people were hunting and like there was famines, and you know, food wasn't really readily available. Like I couldn't just go on Uber Eats and order like a pizza to my crib. Like that just didn't happen. But nowadays we have such a high abundance of food, specifically like food with refined carbohydrates. You know, you can go down to the corner store and get like chips and ice cream for like $3. Candy, like, you know, we have an abundance of food. And then so what happens now is like the modern day diet, we're really overloading up on mainly like refined carbohydrates, right? And then when that happens, that those refined carbohydrates or glucose basically gets stored into our long-term storage, which is our fat cells, right? And then it starts to expand. All right. Is this making sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So in essence, fat really isn't bad. It's just bad when that storage gets overloaded. All right. And so the issue is, okay, like how do we release this storage and, you know, get to the proper amount of fat that because we do need fat within our bodies, right? It's responsible for hormone regulation and metabolism, but to get to that right amount of healthy, lean body fat mass to body to lean muscle mass. And so really I want to shift from just like focusing on calories to more of like metabolic and hormone paradigm. So how can we get our hormones to actually help us burn more fat even when we're still in a calorie deficit, all right? And so really the hormone that's facilitating the fat moving into your fat cells, it's really insulin, all right? And the other hormone that's facilitating the fat moving out of your fat cells, it's called hormone sensitive lipase, or we can call it HSL. And then so when that's present, that moves the fat outside the fat cell, but it's not burning it yet, right? And the thing that actually burns the fat once it's outside the cell is actually like your mitochondria, okay? And so these are kind of like the hormones that are at play when you're gaining fat or you're losing fat, or if you're even burning fat. Is this making sense so far?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically when insulin is present, within your body when it's active, your body can't facilitate a fat burning process. And so insulin is generally like secreted when you're consuming pretty much like, refined carbohydrates, things like, let's say like anything white, like white rice, breads, pastas, things like that. Just like basically like general, like, sugars and things like that. And that's pretty much the vast majority of our modern day food system. And that's kind of why we kind of see a lot of, the fat epidemic that we have right now. And so,
what are some other examples? You said pasta, bread. Like, what are some other examples of like those?
pretty much just like pasta, bread, rice.
Pasta, rice,
Let's think of any like,
carbs.
like carbohydrate, and obviously there's different types of carbs, right? There's like, for example, vegetables and fruits are carbohydrates, right? But it's different because there's something called a glycemic index, right? On a scale of 0 to 100. So the higher it is on the glycemic index, the more it's going to spike your insulin levels, right?
Got it.
And so these tend to be, nutrient dense carbohydrates. So those are the ones you want to lean towards, right? It's not going to spike your insulin levels as high. But if you're just having like straight up white rice or just white bread, things like that, it's going to spike your insulin levels a bunch, right?
Got it.
And then when that happens, it creates this feedback loop, right? So if you see this chart here, right? So you have a lot of high carbohydrate diet, right? It increases your blood sugar and increases your insulin levels. And so this also goes into fat storage, right? Based off of what I described before, right? You're getting this excess amount of glucose and carbs, and it gets stored into as fuel for later, right? And then it also develops something called insulin resistance, which actually leads to more tiredness and more hunger in the long run. Because you might feel, let's say you have like a big sandwich for lunch, right? You feel energized for like 30 minutes, right? You feel all good and happy. And then, 45 minutes later, you're just kind of like, man, I want to sleep, or I'm tired, and then, you actually start to stimulate your appetite even more. So some of the guys that actually are watching this on the live recording, some of them actually want to gain muscle, but their appetite's too low. So I actually tell them to have more carbohydrates to stimulate their appetite, right? So like the more you have of these high carbohydrate foods that you have on the glycemic index, that are high on the glycemic index, it actually triggers your hunger hormones even more, which is called ghrelin, right? So really all of this is it's really like a lot of hormones at play here. And then the key to making, your fat loss goal easier, it's really optimizing your hormones, right? Beyond just, a calorie deficit, because you could, eat at a calorie deficit, but have a high carbohydrate diet, but it's going to be hard, man. Like you're probably going to be hungry all the time. You're not going to have as much energy, and you're not going to feel as satiated, and you're not going to have all the nutrients that you really need, and the right hormones to have, more fat loss. Does that make sense?
I have a question. So I see a lot of guys like eating sweet potatoes, more specifically, like white potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a difference between those two in terms of the glycemic index? I think he called it.
No, that's definitely it. So
Yeah.
sweet potatoes are like on the glycemic index, it's around like 50 or so, which is not bad. It's better than like regular white potatoes, which is, I think it's like 70 or 80 or something like that.
Got it.
Which is why, like, for example, French fries are pretty bad for you, because it's going to spike your insulin levels like crazy. It's very calorically dense because you're combining, like, the deadly mix is like unhealthy fats, right? So eating fats within itself is not unhealthy. It's unhealthy fats, right? So like a lot of these like unsaturated fats and things like that. You combine that with the high carbohydrates, which means you're going to eat a lot of you're going to be hungry, right? It's not going to be satiating, these fries. You can eat a bunch of fries, right? And you'll still be hungry. And then you're spiking your insulin levels, and you're getting all the unhealthy fats in as well. And so it's just like this bad combination that you're consuming.
So potato fries are not regular fries. Got it. Okay.
Pretty much, if you had to choose one, I would go with the sweet potato for sure.
Got it. All right.
So yeah, I mean, sweet potato is not bad. I think, but in terms of the glycemic index, anything below 60, I would say is decent. I would say the time when I was at my leanest, this is when I was trying to I ran a marathon like in 2019, And really the key for it, so like basically like you have two different energy storage ways to burn energy, right? It's either carbohydrates or your fat, right? Your stored fat. And the key for like people running like 3 hours and beyond, it's really burning more fat for fuel, because you have a bunch of it on your body. Like you can go for like days, but the glucose that goes quick. It's kind of like if you think about it in like, let's say you're have your personal finances, right? Your checking account is like the carbs, right? It's like quick and it's easy energy. But you know, like your cash reserves and like your investments, that's like the fat, right? You don't want to tap into that unless like you really need to. You know what I'm saying? And so to like really be good at like long-term endurance, you want to be good at burning fat for fuel instead of carbohydrates, because you're going to be out of the tank, out of the carbohydrate tank relatively quick. So I was at my leanest when I didn't consume any refined carbohydrate really. I was doing intermittent fasting in the morning, which helps with, you know, the fat burning process as well. And I was eating pretty much just lean proteins, healthy fats, and then like vegetables and like fruit here and there. And then like you're just gonna get super lean. Like the body fat has nowhere to go. And then you add in the training that you're doing, like the running that I was doing and some of the lifting, and then also being at like slightly below maintenance calories. It's just thermodynamics, man. It's just math, you know, like the fat's gonna go. And that's the program that you guys are on right now. Like I've looked at both of your guys' programs thus far, and you're doing the right things, 100%. But this is just kind of like solidifying like why I'm telling you, like why I'm giving you certain things to do, you know, regarding to your training and your nutrition and everything. Just so like also you have like this in the back of your mind, because the next time you go and eat a meal and you have two choices, you know the processes behind them, you know, and when you understand the why, it makes it a lot easier to make a better decision, you know, because you know, it's not fun, you know, being told like, yeah, man, like if you eat like a lot of refined carbohydrates, you increase the chances of you getting fat, you know, like that's not fun. Like they taste good. It's kind of addicting, you know? So like, this is part of the reason, you know, what's really going on.
Got it.
Yeah. So like I said before, the key here is really decreasing the activity of insulin. And so really what that is, it's decreasing the ratio of carbs and increasing the ratio of healthy fats and protein. So a thing that I'm going to start doing now with your guys' macronutrients is over time, I'm slowly going to start to decrease the carbohydrate percentage that you have. And what that's going to do is, instead of decreasing the calories, I'm just going to decrease like the ratios of what that calorie breakdown is, because you can only go so low in calories. And the thing is, I need you guys to have enough energy to be able to train properly and maintain muscle, because having muscle is also an important part of having a good physique and also just being healthy and staying lean, because muscle itself burns more calories than fat itself, right? So the more muscle that you have, the better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So expect in the next week or two for me to change your meal plans and drop down the carbs just a bit. We're not decreasing the calories, so you're actually probably going to eat more food, right? So to hit, what was that, Lloyd? What was that face for?
Yeah. When I first started, I was way too much food. I've
Really?
gotten used to it now, but yeah,
Okay.
like, I don't eat this much. Yeah.
I mean, that's good. That means if we drop down your calories as well, and you still feel satiated, and we decrease the carbohydrate consumption, that's going to be even more progress for you, which is good. Because the issue that we get in, and Brandon and I were going to discuss this, is that I don't want to drop your calories too low. And we did for him strategically, just to kind of like really hit like a fat loss goal that he has for something he has going on personally, something he's trying to perform in. But long term, that's not sustainable, right? And you need to have the energy levels and maintain a certain amount of muscle for you to like function properly. Like, you know, we're grown men, like we have to eat, we need food, you know. So
yeah, because I'm freaking suffering right now on my second day of my liquid cleanse. I got one more day to go. So
yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
things like that. It's just that's a short-term measure, and you can get into the trap of having an unhealthy relationship with food if you keep those calories too low.
Right.
So basically for you, we're gonna have to reverse diet you back up to almost like close to maintenance calories, and try to do it in the best way possible, because staying too low, it's a bad cycle.
Yeah.
But back to the insulin levels. Another way is specifically with your first meal of the day, and this is where people in the United States get ruined. Is that like we have like cereal and like these like bars and like bagels. You go to Starbucks, they have everything is just carbohydrate. And the thing is that you're setting your metabolism up like the wrong way in the beginning of the day, right? Like it kind of sets the precedent for the day. So
all that sugar. Ooh.
all that sugar. So now your metabolism set to focus on, taking in more glucose and then storing it more for fat. So you're not starting it off on the right way. So in breakfast, you're better off increasing the overall protein and fat consumption rather than carbohydrate. Right. So that's not to say you can't have any carbohydrates. It's just changing the ratio just a bit.
So when you because you say you're gonna redo our meal plan, so I'm assuming when you give us our new meal plans, that it's not gonna have foods that will require us to have a lot of carbs or even, because sometimes when you cook it, you might have to roll 3 more teaspoons of butter, and something, and then boom, carbs is out of control. But I'm assuming that's what's going to happen, or if it's already been like that, maybe I'm wrong. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
No, I plan to change it up for in the next week. I'm going to shift down. Like you're still going to have some carbs, like, because the thing is it's a double-edged sword, because it can be, and not it can be, it is addictive. Carbohydrates are addictive, and if you drop it too low too soon, you might experience like literally withdrawal. Like like when you drop your carbohydrates way too low, way too fast, you go I'm pretty sure you've experienced this already, Brandon.
Yeah, remember I told you when I first started out and I was like having a sugar withdrawal? Like
right.
It was crazy. I was feeding for something sweet when I first started the program all the time. It was so hard. Oh my God. Like, yeah, so that withdrawal shit is definitely serious. And hopefully it won't be as bad when you do this carbohydrate.
No, it's going to be a progression, right? Because let's say for right now, let's say your breakdown of carbohydrates of your calories is like 40%, right? I'm not going to drop you down to like 10%, right? Like that's just crazy. I wouldn't do that to you. I'm not, probably maybe like 30% if you're really, ambitious, 25%. And then over time, because your body starts to adjust, right?
Right.
Like for example, for me, like I've trained my body to the point where, like, let's say tomorrow I'm just like, no, I'm going down to like 10% carbohydrates. I can do it, just because like I've trained my metabolism to burn more fat for fuel than carbohydrates. So like I'll be fine. But for someone that has never really done it before, it should be more of like a gradual process. Unless you're just like super tough, like David Goggins, like you can go ahead, but there's a more pleasant way to taper off, just like with caffeine, right? You don't have to go cold turkey. You can slowly drop off over time. So, but yeah, I mean, I'll probably just bring it down maybe about 10%, and then over time, more and more, depending on like the results that you're getting. If you're getting amazing results just by a 10% drop, and you're happy, you feel good, you have a lot of energy, why make it even worse?
Right.
Yep. So yeah, man. So just dropping the carbohydrate ratio will help decrease the levels of insulin, and then also intermittent fasting in the morning as well. That's a huge part of it. During the times of intermittent fasting, like that's really like fat burning on steroids. Like that's like one of my favorite tools. Is like I've trained myself to the point where I could intermittent fast until like 2 p.m. and it's actually like good for my for my workflow, because I'm just so focused during that time. Like when you're intermittent fasting, you're not having to like worry about food or worry about your body processing food. Like you're kind of getting to this flow state. So that's another tip for people out there that want to really capitalize on like their mornings, right? And then I would eat something really big at like 2 p.m. and then I would have like another food later in the day. Not too close to bed though, because that will kind of ruin your sleep just a little bit. But
I did, I didn't even realize that I was doing intermittent fasting a few times throughout this program, but it's been times where I didn't eat breakfast, and I was really focused on work, focused on other things, so I wouldn't think about food or what I'm about to eat or anything like that for lunch or later on in the day. But I would drink like water during that whole time instead for breakfast, and then I would actually eat something, for lunchtime, and then have something for dinner. But I didn't even realize. Oh, okay.
Question about intermittent fasting. If you work out in the mornings, right? So, I just bought that pre-workout, and I normally have like a protein shake or something like that after the gym. Could you still, if you work out in the mornings, do you still suggest intermittent fasting, or how would you?
I would be hungry as hell. I can't do it.
It depends. I mean, that's when it's kind of hard.
Got it.
It's really personal preference at that point. I know for me, there was times when I could work out in the morning and I wouldn't have such a long fasting window, like till 2 p.m. I'd probably do it. Let's say I woke up at 6.
Like 12.
I'll probably break my fast at like 12 or so.
Yeah.
And like you'd be fine. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It depends on like if you really need to like eat something. But the thing is, like, over time you can train your body to be all right without, like, we're designed to really intermittent fast, like, as humans. Like, we weren't designed to be in this current society that we have where we always have food on deck, so it's just a matter that we really just trained ourselves to need to eat food, frequently,
right.
And the carbohydrates is a part of it, right? Because like I said before, like, the more that you have these carbohydrates and it spikes your insulin levels, that will also lead into spiking your ghrelin, which is another hormone, which is like the hunger hormone. And the more ghrelin you have, the more hungry you are, and the increase your appetite. When you decrease the amount of carbohydrates that you have over time and you get used to it, you actually are less hungry. Because really what's going on is when you're eating these refined carbohydrates, they really don't have any nutrients in them. So like our body's like, dude, where's the nutrients? Like we're hungry, like get more food, like these are, like, for example, like white bread, like that's empty calories. It's just carbohydrate. Like it doesn't have like vitamins and minerals in them or anything, It's really, if you're having this like white bread, your body metabolizes it the same way as if you have like a tablespoon of sugar, right? It's going to spike your insulin levels the same way, and it's going to go right into storing the fat the same exact way. It's just the marketing that the food industry has given us to make us believe like, oh yeah, like we need this stuff. Like you really don't need to eat that many carbohydrates to survive as a human. Like you really don't. Like you can survive off your body fat stores just fine. And that's how we were designed, actually.
Got it.
So
would you suggest with the intermittent fasting, like that's for a season, or are some people doing it, back to your other point, like personal preference, it's like all the time? Or is it a goal, like I'm trying to lose weight, so I should do it, and then once I get to that goal, then I switch back to,
it's all personal preference and your goal. So for me, I always use intermittent fasting when for me, getting lean, or just like trying to, let's say, like, I don't need to lose weight. It's really just kind of like getting lean for whatever purpose. Let's say I'm going to a trip or something and I want to, like, look my best. I will always do intermittent fasting. It's just the best way. It's just the best way. Or if I'm in a tight crunch for work and I really need to focus, intermittent fasting is huge. Like I get so much out of my mornings. I'm the most focused then. And like, especially if it's like a work that requires like a lot of like concentration and deep work, I don't want to have my body to focus on allocating energy to digesting food. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that requires energy. I want all my energy towards like the task at hand.
Make a
But
lot.
I will stop intermittent fasting when I'm in a period where I'm trying to gain the most amount of muscle. You know,
Got it.
like you can still
Got
do it, but it's not optimal, you know, because I
Got
will want to get that protein shake right after my lift in the morning or after my cardio or whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So it's completely up to you. I might get to the point now where I really don't care about building muscle anymore. I'm just strictly all about performance. So I probably might just intermittent fast forever, you know. And I like it that way. And the food tastes better when I finally get to eat it. You know, I get to have a big meal. It's nice, healthy, feels good. And I already got a bunch of work done early in the day. And
Yep.
that's just my preference. Some people, they just love breakfast and that's them. And like, you know, that works for you, you know.
Got it.
Got you.
I'm like a brunch type of person. Like I could eat at that 11, 12, 1, 2, whatever, and be good with that. Still eat eggs in the middle of the day type of person. Pancakes, all
have
that.
eggs anytime. You know? And then another thing to it is sleep as well. So like moving beyond just like, you know, the simple, like, you know, calories in, calories out, that can work, but I want you guys to be the most optimal. You know, I want you guys to get the best results. So sleep is also going to help you become a fat burning machine as well, because that's also going to influence your hormones as well. Like, you know, mitochondria, which is directly associated with burning fat. Ghrelin, your satiety hormone, right? If you have a bunch of ghrelin, you're going to start, you know, overeating, and you're going to start looking at those fries, and you're going to have like two servings of it, you know? And so, you know, high quality sleep directly affects your hormones, you know? And then also it's going to affect, you know, the maintenance of your lean muscle tissue. There's been studies that have shown that that if you take a group of people that are sleep deprived and over a period of time, their lean muscle mass goes down, even when they're having a certain amount of protein and, you know, training properly. So, you know, that's going to directly affect your lean muscle tissue, which is what you need. You know, muscle is a huge asset. And it also reducing like fat loss rates, right? So if you look at this graph down, there was a study that showed a group of people that were sleep restricted and other group of people that were non-sleep restricted. They had like the same training program, they're having the same calories and macros and everything, and like they had the same like body profiles, right? And so in terms of like weight loss, they more or less lost the same, right? So the sleep restricted people, they had like 5 hours a night. Okay, that's what Lloyd's having right now. I see on his sleep tracker. And then the non-sleep restricted is like they had like 7-8 hours. Okay, and so overall, like 3 kilograms, that's about 6 or 7 pounds, right? And I think it's a span over like 30 days or something like that. And then, but that breakdown, that weight loss is between fat loss and then fat-free loss. So that could be like water weight or like muscle, right? And as you can see, the people that were sleep restricted only lost 0.6 kilograms. And then the people that were non-sleep restricted that slept well, they lost almost more than double, right? And so the people that were sleep restricted, that 2.4 kilograms, I guarantee you quite a bit of it was muscle, and that's not good. So, you know, your sleep is going to affect like how much actual fat is being burned as well, and then how much muscle you're maintaining as well. So this is why, like, you know, I'm stressing sleep a little bit more. You know, it's gonna accelerate your results even more. And then it's also gonna affect your stress levels, right? You know, when you're sleep deprived, you're gonna feel a lot stressed, right? A lot more stress. And when you're sleeping better, you can manage that stress better, and your cortisol levels are reduced. And when cortisol, that's another hormone, cortisol, when that's present, fat cannot be burned at an optimal level, because, like I said before, fat burning requires mitochondria, which is energy, right? And when your body is allocating energy to managing stress, it would rather allocate the energy to managing the stress than it is to burning the fat, right? So decrease your cortisol levels, and your stress levels will help you as well. Sleep will improve this 100%. And, you know, you're just gonna have a better mood as well, you know, and you're gonna manage your day-to-day stressors as well. You know, you guys are busy guys. Your performance is going to be better. So like these are like compounding effects, let's say, for example, Lloyd, you're sleeping on average like 5 to 6, 7 hours a night. And I know that extra hour, like it's a loss of time by 1 hour, but you would have to think about it in terms of like it being a force multiplier. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do more with that time that you have, if you get what I'm saying. Because you just make better quality decisions, and really like the summation of our life really is this. It's the sum of like all the decisions that we make through time. So that's kind of how I see it. I kind of see it as like an investment instead of like just a pure cost of like, okay, I lost 1 hour. And if we're going to be real with ourselves sometime, like really we're like wasting time at night, man, which is why I'm trying to give you guys to do that digital detox, man. I'm telling you, it sounds so simple, but it will really like be a big game changer. 100%. It's just too many benefits to ignore. And it's not just like the amount of sleep, it's like you also get higher quality sleep, right? And so like a good rule of thumb that I have is like, try to get 7 hours of high quality sleep, which is really like the quality of your sleep cycles, like the REM and the deep sleep cycles that you have. And some ways that not everyone has. So I know, Lloyd, you bought an Oura Ring just like I did. But Brandon, I don't think you have like a sleep tracker. There's another one called a Whoop, which is like more like a band. And they actually give it to you for free, but you have to sign up for like a subscription service. But nonetheless, like if you don't have an activity tracker, you can determine high quality sleep by like how fast like you fall asleep, which is called sleep latency. So like 10 to 15 minutes is all right. And then how often do you wake up in the middle of the night? Your wakefulness, like were you restless during your sleep? And then like your sleep efficiency, like how much time did you spend in these sleep cycles, right? And then, you can't really measure if you don't have a sleep tracker. So like you might have to get a Whoop band, or if you have like a Fitbit or something, an Oura Ring. I would avoid the Apple Watches because they tend to be very inaccurate. But down here is an example of like what the Oura Ring looks like. You see everything in regards to how good your sleep is. And then it's the sheer fact that you're measuring your sleep. If you manage it better because now you're more aware. The ring doesn't make you sleep better. It just makes you more aware, which leads you to then managing your sleep a lot better. Is this making sense?
I'm excited. I had a high score today, finally.
Nice. What'd you get?
I think it was like a 80 or something like that.
Hey, there you go. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're not sleeping on the couch anymore, right?
Try not to.
Try not to. Oh man, you got to fix that. You got to fix that. Yeah, and then there's some other simple solutions to improving it. Like I said, the digital detox, like 30 minutes before bed. Don't get caught up on the YouTube algorithm, the Instagram algorithm. Tell your mom you got to go to bed. Tell everybody good night. Just shut off the phone 30 minutes before bed. Get a journal. Write some goals down for tomorrow. Write what you're grateful for the day. Relax. Maybe play some nice music. Something that doesn't stimulate you. I don't know. Go light a candle. Something. Just relax the mind. Really, just take us, because we're on our screens all day. We got people messaging us, emails, demands. It's like
all day long.
But then we tend to go on these platforms that, we think we're relaxing, but it's really revving our mind up. You're unconscious, because your unconscious is still, your subconscious is still running, processing these things. Like you might not actively, your conscious is shut off, right? But you're vegging out, but your brain's still working.
Right.
Which then could then cause you to have dreams you don't want to have, and we wake up feeling different type of ways, and that's because of what you fed yourself before you went to bed. So it's true.
Exactly. That's another thing that you can get into is like your brain actually gets into different like frequencies, right? And then the frequency, I think it's called like the gamma wave frequency, like right before you're actually about to fall asleep, like you're kind of awake but not really. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's when you're most programmable. So like if you're like listening to something, And like if it's like negative, like you're gonna start to like program that into like your subconscious, you know?
Right.
Because there's actually some people that they want to program their subconscious for something good. They listen to like certain affirmations or like certain like like binaural beat frequencies or like whatever to like
the ambient music. I love ambient. I listen
there you go.
to that sometimes.
There you go. Listen to that, you know, instead of you know, stuff, just negative things, you know. Or even just like TV shows, you know, like bad TV shows that like violence or like these crime shows or something, you know, like it's not good. So and the other thing too is like the blue light as well, you know, like that's causing cortisol. You're releasing cortisol instead of the serotonin and the melatonin you need to not only fall asleep but to have higher quality sleep cycles throughout the night. I don't know if you've seen this, Lloyd, but the times when, like, let's say you fell asleep watching something, and then times when you just went to bed, you would probably notice that your score was probably higher. You had more restful sleep. Your readiness score was probably higher, and you probably felt better the next morning.
Yeah, I need to pay attention to that. Yeah. It also allows you to like put those things in, right? Kind of like, I don't know, little tags.
Yeah.
With the ring. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you can start to see the things that really affect you as well. Even like caffeine and alcohol before bed, like these are huge ones. You know, I know you had that pre-workout at like in the evening and you're up till 2 a.m. hyped up on 200 milligrams of 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Don't do that. Yeah, that was a mistake. Don't do that. Yeah. Whoever's.
Yeah. So watch out for that. Even alcohol, like I know just one to two standard drinks of alcohol will greatly affect your sleep. And the thing is, it's gonna like you might knock out and pass out, but you got to go back to the quality sleep, the sleep cycles. Like you're not gonna be have the same quality of sleep cycles. The same thing with weed and marijuana. Like you will be asleep, right? You'll be unconscious, but you won't go through the proper, you know, REM cycles, deep sleep cycles, which when you wake up in the morning, if you go through it properly, that's when like you feel good. You know, your heart feels cozy. You know that feeling when you just wake up, you just had a good sleep. You're like, oh,
yeah,
everything's
so
all right. You know,
saying weed is not a good thing before bed. It's not good.
I wouldn't do it, man, because it's gonna mess up. What it does, it messes up your REM sleep.
Got it.
Yes.
Because
if you think about it, if you ever gone through a time period where you smoked a lot of weed before bed, and then let's say you stopped doing it, you notice that you would have crazy dreams. Like you just start dreaming like crazy.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
And the same thing when you wean off of caffeine as well. Like you just start to have very vivid and clear dreams because your body is now catching up, like from all the REM sleep that it was deprived of, and that's directly like linked to, you know, your emotional center, your ability to like regulate your mood and just like overall like your memory and your cognitive functioning, right? And then on the side of the deep sleep, that's more so related to like your physiology more so like repairing muscle, you know, your ability to burn more fat and like your other hormones that are meant to like regulate your, you know, your standard processes throughout the day. So these things are it's very important. And it's all interlinked, you know, because let's say you start having you get sleep deprived, right? You start sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night consistently. Your hormones are out of whack. Your mood is worse, right? So your mood's bad. You need something to lift you up. You're feeling kind of depressed. And then your ghrelin is sky high because you're sleep deprived, which is your hunger hormone. So now you're hungry, angry, depressed, and that's now you're looking for anything to feel good. Now you start stress eating, right? And then you start stress eating, and then what happens? It's a feedback loop. You know, insulin spikes. You know, the glucose gets stored as fat. You start to get fatter. You start to feel worse about yourself. Now you're tired. Now you're more stressed. And it's also like a feedback loop. And that's why everything's interconnected. So that's why it's more than just like going to the gym. The gym will help you. You have to do it. But these things are all important as well. And it's all synergistic. It feeds back onto itself. So that's why, like, you know, I want to cover these other areas as well and have you like have this understanding. So when it comes time to make a decision, you know what the effects are. It's not just what you're doing right in that moment. There's like first and second order consequences down the road.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
No, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah. Sure.
Because a lot of it's like really just like the mindset that you have in regards to like your health and fitness, you know, because we all deep down, we really know what we need to do, but like we don't know why. And when you have like a strong why, it's easier to make the right decisions and do what you need to do, you know, because if I'm just sitting here like, hey guys, go sleep 7 hours, like, man, fuck Nigel, I don't want to listen to this guy. I'm gonna go watch Netflix, you know, or whatever you want to do. That might. I'm not saying you can't do those things, but it's obviously like within certain guardrails. You know, like you go enjoy yourself, have a drink. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, you know, go out and have a fun night and not get the best sleep. Like that's fine, but it's like what you do on a consistent basis. You know, like, you know, sleeping 5 hours a night, it's low key like brain damage. You know, it's not optimal.
That was me on Sunday. Like I went to bed like at 4 because I decided to finally get out the house and go to the club. And I had me 2 drinks. And when I tell you, it was so hard on Monday. Like I did not want to talk to anybody. I was just like, my mood, I didn't have enough sleep. So that little funky 5 somewhat hours I got really, because if I went to bed at 4, that really wasn't even 5. That was like 2 because I got to be up for work at 6.
Oh, yeah, you just shot yourself in the foot right there. That's, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. That's kind of, yeah. I mean, I would have.
That's why I was out like a lamp yesterday.
You know, on Saturday, and like have it be like a once in a while thing. You know, because you know, go have fun. I'm not like, don't be a robot. Like that's not the whole point of this. You know, but definitely if you work on 6 a.m. like that, that just, I don't know. I wouldn't have done that if I was you.
I didn't plan on that, like, but it just
amazing event
that way.
And like they were handing out money, and you know, but no. But yeah, man, like everything, like there's first and second order consequences to everything, and everything is interlinked, right? You know, it's, you know, if you get bad sleep, it's going to affect everything, you know.
Yes.
Your health and fitness goals, your ability to perform in your career, your mood, you know, your relationships with other people, everything. Same thing with nutrition, same exact thing. People have reported that as you drop down the amount of refined carbohydrates that you consume, your mood actually gets better, because when you're consuming all these refined carbohydrates and all these high sugar foods, your emotions are actually tend to be wavy, right? Because really what happens is like when your insulin spikes and then when it drops back down again, you kind of like go through withdrawal in a way. Like it literally acts like it's like drugs, you know? So it's all interlinked as well. Is this making sense so far?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything that you guys want to have any questions about specifically, or?
I would say that since the program, my mindset has changed a lot. Like now I'm programmed to where if I don't know what's in the food I'm about to eat, I'm not going to eat it. If I don't know the calories, I'm not going to eat it. I don't care if it's vegan. I want to know what's in it. Like, because just because it's vegan doesn't mean that the calories still add up. Like, you know, people think, and that kills me too. Like people, oh, it's vegan. That doesn't mean you can have 5
it's all marketing
of that. Like, the hell? So, and that happened to me at work last week. And people were like, oh yeah, they got vegan restaurant here today, vegan nachos, vegan whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, do y'all have a calorie menu? And she was like, No. I said, okay. And I walk right on away. Like, that's how I am now. I need to know the carbs in it. I need to know the sugar. I need to know the calories. Like, that's important, especially since I'm documenting it. And even if I wasn't, now that I'm trained, you know, I still don't want to eat something I don't know what's in it.
No, that's true.
So
that's true.
That's where I'm at now.
Especially with restaurants as well, because you don't know what kinds of oils and sauces that they're putting in things. Like, you have no idea.
Right.
Like, they could be on their website. They could put, our nutrition guideline for this thing is it's 500 calories, but in reality, they had some guy and they're just throwing on hella shit, and in reality, it's like 800, 900. And you're here thinking like, yeah, I ate 500 calories, but you just had 800, 900. So it can get pretty dangerous.
Exactly. And I'm like skeptical now. Like, these scratch kitchens and stuff like that, they say they make them and they make it when you order. Like, you're not even counting what you're putting in. You could be dumping 2 things of sugar in this plate and then 3 in this plate just because it's like, no, I don't know what. No, I don't care how good the food look.
And then another thing too is with the vegan food is you know how they kind of try to replicate like these like meat. There's a lot of like ingredients and like things in it that will like mess up with your hormones. Like, I'm serious. Like, like you don't know. Like, these are manufactured. Like, is that really food? Like, that's what
I'm saying.
Yeah, and people try. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm vegan, I'm healthy." It's like, are you really? I don't know. That's a whole debate. That's a whole debate that you could go on for hours about.
I would love to sit in on that, because I'm like, all this artificial. It's supposed to be this artificial meats and things, and I'm like, okay, what is exactly in this stuff? How did you make it? Like, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
That's why I'm trying to shift the paradigm from just focusing on calories to, like I said, like your metabolism and your hormones, right? Because when those are on point, like, you almost really don't have to count your calories. You can really just focus on the macronutrient ratios, right? Just continue to train. And then as long as you know that, your hormones are in check, you're healthy, you don't have to be as strict on yourself. You can almost start to just eat intuitively, right? And just because like your hormones will be working for you, right? So because the thing is, like, you can turn your body into a fat burning machine when you really optimize it as such. I can give you the formula right now on like how to, like, if you really want to maximize your ability to burn fat. Like, this is what I would do. It's not for it's not for everybody. So what I would do is I would start intermittent fasting for like hours. I would probably just eat like a meal and a half a day. I would fast till like 2-3 p.m. And then I would have a huge meal at that time. And then I would have like a decent, regular sized meal, not too close to bed, but close enough, right? So I would do that. I would track my calories, my macros. I would eat at slightly below maintenance. I wouldn't want to go too low because I want to have enough energy, and there's enough energy for my hormones to stay optimal, so I can still like perform throughout the day and train properly and maintain muscle. So I would eat probably 100 to 200 calories slightly below maintenance. And then what I would also do is, with those macronutrient ratios, I wouldn't ever go a day of over 20% carbohydrate, right? And the carbohydrates that I do consume will be all low glycemic index. So like, I would have nothing white. I don't want to see no white rice, no bread, no pasta, nothing. I'm pretty much eating vegetables, right? My plate would consist of nice lean protein, something like, fish, grass-fed beef, or, free range chicken, like whatever your protein is, maybe like add some beans in there, and I'll just have like just some vegetables, like green leafy vegetables preferably, just because those will really be nutritious for you and will give you the right nutrients to actually give you energy and to optimize your hormones as well, right? So that's kind of what my plates would look like, right? And I'd add a little bit of fruit in there, but not too much, because some certain fruits can put you on the high glycemic index as well. So that's what my nutrition would look like. I'll track everything, and then I would just I would still lift. I would focus on trying to progress on those lifts, but then I would do a lot of like cardio at a very low heart rate. I wouldn't go too hard. And the reason for that is there's different heart rate zones that your body can be in. And at each heart rate zone, you can actually determine which energy source you're using. So the more intense the exercise, right? So let's say you're running, right? If you're running really fast, you're using carbohydrate for energy. But what I want to do is I want to use my stored fat for energy. So what I used to do when I was training for the marathon, I actually got a heart rate strap, and I would basically monitor what my heart rate was on the run, and I wouldn't go above a certain level of heart rate, which is like an optimal heart fat burning zone. And I would just stay in that zone and just like run. I would just run all the time. I would do like double sessions. I like ran in the morning and I ran in the evening, and I still did my lifting. I was just like a madman, and I almost got too lean. Like that's when I was in one of my photos, I was just skinny, man. Like it wasn't good. But like that's what I would do if I wanted to get like as lean as possible. But it was like a good starting point for me for when I wanted to build up some more, because I was so lean that like when I went into like a surplus, like I was just packing on. Like I was looking sick. But that's what I would do. And I would sleep 7.5 hours a night, high quality sleep, do all the strategies. And then before bed, I would have a magnesium. I would have magnesium before bed. And then what else? There's it's called I forgot, some type of plant thing, like had like these like little droplets, and then like some passion flower, and I would like drink that before bed, and then it would kind of get me relaxed. Or a chamomile tea. Chamomile tea is good, and it would really relax me before bed. No screen, and then just like sleep. And like that's what I would do if I wanted to like lose fat as fast as possible in the healthiest way. The unhealthy way is you just starve yourself and be miserable and like train like crazy, which I don't advise, right? Because that's when you develop a bad relationship with like food, and you start to get like depressed, and then you lose strength, you lose muscle, and you can't have that. You can't have it. So.
That sounds like something I might need to do for November. But I know you already got your whole thing going on, what you about to do with me next. So yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So for you, I'm gonna update your guys' meals plans, and then drop down that carbohydrate ratio. Specifically in the morning time, I'm gonna have your first meal, or if you guys want to do intermittent fasting, whatever it is, breakfast, first meal, whatever, is gonna be a lot higher in proteins and fats than carbohydrates, because that's going to set your metabolism for the day as well. And then continue to really focus on the sleep part as well. Like, that's going to be huge. Really try to get that digital detox habit going. Cool bedroom, dark as possible. It's the perfect environment for high quality sleep. And this another thing is also just like stick to like a sleep schedule, like your circadian rhythm, because if you're going to bed and waking up at random times, like your circadian rhythm is not in tune. Like your hormones, because when you get into like a schedule, your hormones know exactly when to flip on and when to turn off, right?
Yes.
So
that's true.
Awesome, man. This is really good. Thank you for doing this.
Definitely. Any other questions? I'm actually gonna post this into the group, this PDF, in case you guys want to view it another time, and then I'm gonna post the video to the group so the other guys can see it. And yeah, man, this was a good call. I know I was speaking a lot. Hopefully you guys got some notes, or just kind of try to remember some things that I said. But I really want to like start training your guys' minds, like your mindset properly, like and even like just like for life, you know what I'm saying? Like this is good knowledge for life as well. Just to make things easier.
Definitely.
You know? Cool, man.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks for being on the call with me, and have a good rest of your week.
All right, you too.
You too, Nigel.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.